I'm Parker Brown, and today I really am on my soapbox about guns, in particular the Springfield Xd. Okay, a little bit of a history lesson here. Croatia had many service weapons for its military before making their own at home, basically. And what they came up with was this. This is the PHP, which I won't even try and pronounce, but it basically translates to the first Croatian pistol. As you can see, it's very, very ugly. It looks like a marriage between a Beretta 92 and a Walther P38. These saw varying levels of quality and production. They were not made for very long, and they were made very infrequently, and as such they suffered. They ranged anywhere from "this gun won't fire" to "this is the best gun I've ever seen in my life." That really didn't do well for them. There was another model, this was the PHP MV9, and then they had another version called VM17, which was the same thing but a longer barrel. They did not last very long. They were manufactured in the early 1990s, developed and manufactured in the early 1990s, so very short life cycle and did not do very well. Now fast forward to around year 2000. They came up with a new service pistol made by themselves called the HS-2000. It was a polymer framed semi-automatic handgun that fired 9mm parabellum. Magazines held 15 rounds plus one in the chamber. Striker fired. No thumb safety. And that made its way into the U.S. market by way of import. And people saw it at gun stores and gun shows and things, and they really thought that it was a joke. People would look at it and just think, how do the Croatians think this is a good gun? It looks like somebody put together a 1911 and a Glock and came out with this deformed child of a gun. And it was not well received. Its only redeeming factor was that it cost about $200. It was a good cheap alternative for somebody that just needed a gun and couldn't afford much else. It was kind of like the high point of the times because it was prolific and cheap and reasonably reliable. We'll get into that later. Now, since we're through that, we're going to take a look at the Springfield Armory. The actual Springfield Armory, whose name included no incorporated or LLC or anything like that, just Springfield Armory, was started by George Washington for the exclusive purpose of providing firearms to the United States military. It made 1911s, it made M1 Garands, it made M14s, it made the M1A, it made pretty much every U.S. Firearm for the military until 1968, when the federal government closed it because it wasn't needed anymore. We were importing the M16 by way of FN Canada. The 1911 was no longer in service. It was replaced with the Beretta M9, which was basically the 92 FS, which was coming from Italy. So, Springfield Armory was closed in 1968. The facility in Springfield, Massachusetts is now a historic site. Elmer C. Balance from San Antonio, Texas, owned a company called LH Manufacturing, and in 1974 he bought the licensing rights to Springfield Armory and started Springfield Armory Incorporated, and is now centered in Geneseo, Illinois. They were making reproductions of the 1911, the M1A, the M14, all that good stuff. And then in the early 2000s, they started importing 1911s from other manufacturers instead of making them at home, and they started manufacturing more tactical models with rails and high-vis sights and things. Then in 2002, they decided they were going to start importing the HS-2000. and they did not change the design at all. It was not rebranded. It was the HS2000, made in Croatia, original design, and they were selling for about $225 to $250. So still a good cheap option, and they made a little bit of profit off of them. In 2005, Springfield Armory decided, we're going to start selling these as the Extreme Duty pistol, and we're going to increase the price to $400 plus. So you now have the same Croatian gun for $200 more than it was originally selling for. The only thing they changed was that it said XD instead of HS2000. The magazine base plate was flat instead of angled down for like a pinky rest deal. They changed the texture on the grip, and they added a Glock type rail on the front of the frame, where it was Picatinny slots in the side but only one notch across the bottom. Like I said, price went up to around $400, which was on par with Glock prices at the time. Just before I did this video, I looked up the MSRP on an XD9, $565. That is a 350% price increase off the original model. So they are making bank off of these. They are the same exact gun. They have not changed anything significant about the design. Maybe stainless steel slide, different branding, different stamp on the gun. They still say made in Croatia. It's the exact same gun, and they are charging an extra $365 for the exact same gun that people thought was a joke in the early 2000s. They have improved on that design since. They have made the XDM, the XDS, the XD whatever. They're all basically the same thing. It's an HS2000 in a different caliber, in a different size, whatever. They're still made in Croatia. They are still a cheap $200 gun that looks like a bad mashup of a 1911 and a Glock. Now, I'm going to show you the HS2000 and the XD in series, and then you're going to see a picture where I overlaid them on top of each other exactly, and they flip-flop between the two. So you can see they're the exact same thing. This is the HS2000, made in Croatia, as you can see here, 9x19. Okay. Notice that it has slide serrations in the back, none in the front, no rail, and a beveled magazine base plate. Okay. This is a Springfield Xd. Notice it's got shorter serrations in the back at a different angle, slide serrations in front, single rail, and a flat base plate. And it now says SA XD, Springfield Armory Extreme Duty, and an XD9 up here. On the other side of the gun, it still says made in Croatia. Let's take a look at this little animated picture I put together. You can see they still have the same cut in the slide here. This is the same, that's the same, that's the same, this is the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. Everything's the same except for this textured part right here, these slide serrations here and here, the general roll stamping, and this rail here. The sights are the same, the sticky outy guide rod is the same, everything is the same except for the roll marks, the slide serrations, magazine base plate, this textured part, and the rail. It is the exact same gun. I know what you're thinking. Hey Parker, they're still reliable guns. Well, they're not. They may have improved over time with minor design changes, but I've got a whole list of videos here on YouTube where people have done the Sig Sauer P226, the Springfield XD, which they also list as the HS2000 in parentheses, the Beretta 92, let's see, the 1911, a Gen 3 Glock 19, a Gen 4 Glock 17. They stacked them all up against each other. The lineup of what passed and failed their tests, overall score, was the Sig Sauer P226, the Beretta 92FS, a Glock 19 Gen 3, then the Springfield XD, also listed as the HS2000 in parentheses, so it's the original model, and then a Springfield Armory 1911. And the reason the 1911 lost is because when they did an underwater firing test, the barrel exploded. Don't shoot your 1911 underwater. That's the lesson learned there. So it was an automatic failure. So discounting that, SIG, Beretta, Glock, XD. I don't know about you guys, but I carry a SIG. I'm carrying it right now. SIG Sauer. I will never carry an XD. I will never own an XD. I just put up a gun on Arms List earlier today, and down in the little will trade for section, I put no Springfield XDs. Does the XD have its place? Yes. In a landfill. But that's just my opinion. So, take it or leave it. I hate the Springfield XD. They are not good guns. They are wickedly overpriced. And the grip safety is too small and too high up on the gun. Seriously. If you hear bump in the night and you grab your gun off your bedside table, do you think you're really going to get a perfect purchase on that gun the first time? No. 1911, it's farther down. It's wider. If you grip that gun to where you can put your finger on the trigger, you are hitting that grip safety. Springfield XD, not so much. You got to be all the way up on that thing. I hate them. I hate the XD. And that's why. So I hope you learned something. I want to educate people. It's not that I want everybody to think the way I do. It's that I'm presenting you with the facts, mixed with a little bit of opinion. And I hope you see these facts and realize that the XD is a bad gun at a bad price. That's just the way it is. So, I'm Parker Brown, and I'm on my soapbox about the Springfield XD. Thanks for watching.